Good morning. It's another beautiful Tuesday, 9 a.m. sharp. We're live here in Austin, Texas for Tuesday training, man. Hope you guys are doing fantastic out there. It is a beautiful day in Austin, Texas, a little crisp, but the temperature's back on the rise, which we like. So hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We got a great guest coming on today. He is going to talk to you guys about the 10 Commandments of Life Insurance Telesales, which I love the title. Makes me think of that movie, The 10 Commandments, but in this case, we're saying, let my people sell, right? And we're going to jump into that here in a minute. But first, I want to jump into a little bit of news like always. Now, last week I was talking about fraud and being lied to and some of those things. And, if you look on Google right now, or you search the news in general, I should say, about anything related to Medicare, you're going to find a lot of arguments about cuts to Medicare, what needs to be cut, what program needs to be cut, what program needs to be edified, and who's to blame for it. There's no shortage of that. And I think a lot of it is out there for confusion. But in my opinion, if they really want to fix Medicare in a lot of ways, right, if they really want to get some of that money back, they got to go after the fraudsters again. And so I've got a couple of articles I want to show you guys real quick that I found today that popped up. So we'll bring these up on here. But the first one shows it's pretty simple. Man, this is straight from the United States Attorney's Office, actually the U.S. Department of Justice, the Southern District of New York. Man pleads guilty to committing multi-million-dollar fraud against Medicare by selling bogus orders for medical equipment, right? Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for Southern District of New York, announced that Matthew Taylor Witkowski pled guilty today to a one-count criminal information charge, or charging him with conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud. And it goes on, and basically he is selling, again, illegal or bogus orders for medical equipment. So that durable medical equipment that some people need, whether anything from wheelchairs, scooters, bedpans, canes, walkers, insulin monitors, etc. This guy's making bogus orders and making a killing out there, millions of dollars. But it's not just him. In Florida, check this one out. Here's another one. 2 Florida doctors convicted for $31 million in Medicare fraud scheme. Right? A federal jury convicted 2 Florida doctors today for their roles in a scheme to defraud Medicare by submitting over $31 million in claims, again, for expensive, durable medical equipment that Medicare beneficiaries didn't need and that were procured through the payment of kickbacks. So basically, these guys are paying bribes and kickbacks to doctors, marketers, etc., so that they can get this stuff approved or get it sent to Medicare, right, and get that money, right? Those fraudulent bills. And going one step further, I want to show you guys one more. This one blows my mind. Check this out. 23 individuals charged in a $61.5 million Medicare fraud scheme. So court documents, it says that court documents were unsealed this week, charging 23 Michigan residents for their alleged involvement in 2 illegal schemes to defraud Medicare of more than $61.5 million by paying kickbacks and bribes for billing Medicare for unnecessary medical services never provided. And it goes through and explains the court case for some of these guys. And then even at the bottom, it lists every single defendant, what they're charged with. Anything from conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, specific instances of healthcare fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States through the payment and receipt of illegal healthcare kickbacks, payment of illegal healthcare kickbacks, etc. And you can see here each individual person all the way down, right? And it even says that 10 other individuals were also charged, but apparently their names weren't important enough to put in here. So obviously there is a ton of people out there defrauding the government, defrauding Medicare over millions and millions of dollars. There's absolutely no shortage of it out there. I don't know how we fix it. I'm not really sure how they do that. Maybe prior authorization is the right way. But again, these guys are getting around that because they are basically bribing people to approve, right, to approve those items so that they can get that bill and get that money paid. So it's out of control. I don't know how they fix it. Again, maybe it's prior authorization and so forth. But that is definitely one way that we can tighten up Medicare so that we don't have to cut it. Because if you look on the news today for anything related to Medicare, you're going to see everybody's arguing about cuts to Medicare, right? And one side is blaming the Republicans, the other side is blaming the Democrats, when truthfully, I think it's just all of them are throwing out information to confuse us. But ultimately, getting rid of these fraudsters is going to be a big way. So that's my 2 cents on that. But moving on, I want to get our guest on here, talk to him a bit. Like I said, he's an expert in telesales. He runs a group called the Transfer Syndicate, which helps you with live transfers for life insurance telesales. But the gentleman straight from Ontario, Canada, let's get him up here, Mr. Chase McAllister.
Oh, man, how you doing, Tony? Thanks for having me on. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy. It's great to have you on.
And firstly, listening to that news, like, what the heck?
It's
That
nuts,
is insane.
man.
That is insane. Thanks for bringing that up. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's nuts, and it's it makes it tough for us in the industry because there's
Yeah.
so much fraud going on in Medicare that the people that are legitimate, that are trying to do the right thing, right? We're the ones
Yeah.
that end up a lot of times taking the heat for it and having trouble doing our business in the right way. It's kind of like the old adage, or not old adage, but it's like that situation where one dude makes a bomb out of a shoe, and now we all have to take our shoes off when we go through the airport to make sure we're okay, right? They just have to penalize everybody because there's one jerk in the system. So anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself real quick, what you're up to and how things are going out there in Ontario, Canada.
Yeah. So first and foremost, let me just address the fact that I personally live in Canada, but our business is located in multiple states. We have a location in Tampa, Florida. We have one in Salt Lake City, and that's where our call centers are based out of. And 99% of our business comes from the United States. I'm just the odd one out that lives up north. So let's just clear the air. Not a Canadian-based insurance company by any means. We are a call center that generates live transfers through some big carriers and IMOs in the United States, as well as provide the Live Transfer Syndicate, which is a training program for single agents that might not have the programs in their IMO or the brokerage, or haven't had the training to really crush telesales. So a lot of what we see is people that are coming from in-home and dealing with in-home sales face-to-face have not really gotten the proper training or don't have access to people that are currently crushing telesales. So we've been able to provide the trainings necessary for them to get out of face-to-face and go to telesales, because we all know sometimes, with face-to-face, it's a lot of time. That's, you're driving an hour to one appointment. The activity that you can generate, especially if you're going after a final expense or even Medicare, it's hard, right? That's a hard activity to generate when you're constantly pounding on doors, setting appointments, driving those appointments. We want to make sure that you have the most efficient day possible and get the most bang for your buck, which truthfully, telesales allows you to expand to different states and do a way bigger net than what's capable in face-to-face. So that's really what we do. Now, why you should listen to anything I have to say or why anything I say has weight, firstly, our company does around 6,000 phone calls per day. So we generate 6,000 calls per day for some big carriers as well as some IMOs and single agents as well. So what we do, we have around 16,000 landing pages ranked on the first to fourth page of Google. Those generate thousands and thousands of leads each day. We're dialing on about 20,000 records a day, typically, to generate those 6,000 phone calls. So if there's anything we've learned how to get told to F off. We've learned how to refute that, and really how to mitigate you being told to F off on any phone call ever. So the next portion is what we've been able to do is craft these 10 commandments, the things that I'm going to go over today, with some top telesales experts in the industry, and combine what they do to get the best result into one framework that's been effectively been able to help. For the past 5 months, we've helped 200 agents go from $20,000 to $40,000 months just in telesales. So it's a pretty big feat when they come from in-home and it's a completely new adaptable thing. That's what we've been able to do through these frameworks that I'm going to kind of go over in a high-level overview. At the end of the training, I'll post a link to an actual SOP for anybody to download and read, give to their agents, whatever it might be. Take what you want out of it. But I'll post the outline that I'm going to go over today in the comments below.
Cool. 16,000 landing pages?
16,000 landing pages. So
that sounds like a task in and of itself.
So what we've done is we've ranked these landing pages in every major neighborhood in every major city in the United States. So for example, when you type in barbershop near me, those barbershops pop up. We're basically the exact same thing for life insurance. When they type in life insurance agency near me or life insurance in, Brooklyn or whatever city it might be, will pop up. One of those landing pages will direct us to our main sites, which people will typically call in, or we'll get their information and call them. That's kind of how that all works. Yeah. So, working with all the top telesales experts, we've crafted what we call the 10 commandments. I'm going to go over them right now. So, number one and number, I'm just going to kind of list them off. So
yeah, let's dive right in.
First commandment is care, right? We want to give a shit about the prospects. Excuse my French. I'm allowed to swear on here, am I?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Awesome.
If you saw last week's episode with Mason Van Meter,
it was just,
it's no holds barred. Language is good.
So number one is caring, right? A lot of agents come in and they get into this point where it's, a burn and turn mentality where they're continuously getting on the phones and then they're looking at the numbers, which is fantastic. Gamify your performance. Make sure you're tracking your numbers. Always track your numbers, but don't let that bleed into your calls. So what we always suggest is take 2 to 5 minutes, just visualizing what help would you be able to provide what would happen if this person didn't get the help that you're able to provide? What would happen to their family? What's the XYZ in that situation? Visualize that and put it into your core. So when you're speaking to this person, the only thing that you think about is actually giving a shit. Because a lot of times we'll bring in agents and it's all about the AP. It's all about the quality person on the phone or their income levels, whatever it might be. First and foremost, let's just care, right? Do they even know how life insurance works? Who are they worried about financially when they pass away, right? These are things that we typically don't even ask in the beginning. A lot of guys will get on the phone and they just go straight into, hey, this is why I've called. Awesome, I'm going to ask you a couple medical questions and then go straight into the application without ever building a why with the person or actually having a conversation like, who are their kids? Do they like football? Did they watch the Super Bowl? Like, we're not even asking these conversational aspects to any sales call, which actually helps you build the rapport and helps you, makes the biggest impact out of anything else, is just caring. There is no rebuttal that you could have. There is no perfect script you're going to have. Literally just caring in the beginning of the call is going to help you. Now, what I mean by that is if you care about the prospect, you're not worried about their health concerns. They're not worried about their financial abilities. And, for example, with life insurance or a final expense lead, these are lower income people. And these people probably aren't even knowledgeable on life insurance. So let's take what we train is take 10 to 15 minutes before you even ask pertinent questions about their health, their finances, just to get to know them, get to know their education level of what life insurance is. This goes into Medicare as well, right? Like just have a conversation with the person so they trust you, right? And make sure that they know that you're on their side. And how do we do that? Well, taking those 10 to 5 minutes just to ask them who they are. Do they know how life insurance works? Because a lot of people, they'll call a lead and be like, what do you want? What were you interested in getting? Was it a term policy, a whole life policy? What is it? 9 times out of 10, these people don't even know. You can't expect somebody to wake up in the morning and want life insurance or know exactly what they want, like they're walking to McDonald's to buy a double cheeseburger. It's just not going to happen. So if you continuously ask those questions like, what were you interested in or what were you looking for in the beginning of your calls, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a negative response. So we teach, don't ask those questions. Ask them, do you know how life insurance works? Do you know what happens when you pass away? Give them a detailed outline of what happens when you pass away. They pick up the body. It goes into a cold storage for a couple days and give them a detailed outline of what actually happens. But before any of that, ask questions, get to know them a little bit more, get them to know you a little bit more, and first and foremost, care, right? Now, the next piece is tonality. This is a key aspect that a lot of people coming in from face-to-face haven't yet grasped because tonality is just body language matching at home, right? Tonality on the phones is gauging, literally matching their tone. So what we train is listen to turn on the TV, okay? Listen to a broadcast, watch the Super Bowl playback and just listen to the broadcasters. They have all matched their tonalities. Their cadences might be different, but if you listen to a group of people, commentating on a football game or a basketball game, they are continuously matching the tone of the other person. Mm-hmm. And that just creates great conversation and people want to listen to it. But in a sales call, really the first and foremost thing that you should do once you get on the phone is match their tonality. So for example, if somebody's in the South, I'm going to slow right down. My Canadian ass might get a little bit of a Southern accent, I might start saying, a couple little like nuances that tailor my tonality to somebody that's going to be in the Southern states, right? Where they're a little bit more laid back with their speaking. And matching that tonality and then bringing the cadence up. And I'll go over cadence. But Before, you should know your audience. So for example, we should know that either we're speaking to, a lower income demographic or a higher income demographic. So matching that tonality for who they are is going to go a long way. So you actually join the call beforehand with that same approach. Now, tonality is, when I'm speaking to a prospect in the South again, I'm gonna slow down, right? But I'm also going to just gauge, where are they at knowledge-wise, where are they at income-wise. But if I know that they're lower income, I'm going to start speaking to that, speaking in a lower income tone. Truthfully, this is where we teach to practice. Go on TV, listen to a couple shows. When you're listening to the shows, try to match the person on the TV's tone. Literally just try to match the person's tone. Practice that. Practice bringing your tone up high or down low and really slow and low, right? Practice those things so you can adjust and adapt very quickly, because tonality is a big key piece to having smooth conversations on the phone. And then the third commandment would be cadence. So start slow. We want to always start slow with our cadence. Be very, very slow in your questionings. Don't be firing off questions. Don't be going after, the pitch right away. Slow down. Ask a couple questions. This allows you to gauge how the prospect speaks, how hyper they are or how laid back they are, right? And taking your time, and then eventually you're going to bring that cadence up. And we do a lot of cadence training, and it's really just through practice. I see in the comment, it is literally just through practice. And practicing bringing your cadence low and slow, and then bringing it up throughout the conversation to where they match your natural cadence. Because agents, you want to be at a spot where you're comfortable. And cadence is one thing that, I have a natural cadence to the way I speak. I'm a kind of a fast speaker, to be honest with you. And you're probably listening to me right now, and you're like, shit, he does talk really fast. I need to, learn how to bring it slow in the beginning and then bring them back up to where I feel comfortable, because that's when I'm going to nail things on the head a lot better, be where I'm comfortable at. And then end strong. So you want to have a confident tone. So when you're delivering these pieces in the sales, so you're going over, for example, how dying works. They're going to pick you up. The market's going to pick you up. They're going to put you in cold storage for a couple days. They're going to decide if it's going to be cremation or burial. And then if it's a burial procedure, then I'm going to go over what happens with the burial procedure, what that cost looks like. But when I'm delivering it, I'm taking pauses, letting it sit into this prospect. And we're going to go over the hard truths aspect of the commandments soon, but it's really about the delivery and ending strong. So bringing them up to the cadence where you're matched in your natural cadence, and then bringing them to an ending point where you're laying these things down in a way where you're taking pauses, effective pauses, not too much silence, but pauses where your key points are landing. Then obviously the third one is preparation. So first and foremost, you need to learn your scripts, okay? You can't read off the script. If you are reading off the script, you shouldn't be taking any inbound calls. If you still have to read off your script, then you are not in a position to take a live transfer, we find. And it's only because of this. When you start reading off of the script, you naturally start to sound like a robot. Even though you probably memorized it, if you have to force yourself to read it, you're going to come off as a robot. And that will never, ever land well, especially with retention. You might get policies through the door, but I guarantee you're going to have twice as many chargebacks as the person that has memorized their script to the fullest. We noticed that that's one of the key things that you lose retention on, is if you're constantly having to read over a script, go over the application, or go over the application questions and read them off word for word. You should have your own way of approaching that. You should be able to be so comfortable with your script, you can do it with your eyes closed and not look at a script. So preparation is far more key than anything else as well. So those top four commandments, we have care, which is number one, always going to be number one, is giving a shit about the prospect. Then it's going to be your tonality, making sure you're matching the tone on the call. And then it's going to be cadence, and making sure that you're delivering and bringing it back, the prospect to a comfortable level where you can speak. And then preparation. Make sure you're not reading off a damn script, because you can't do any of the other three if you're just reading off the line, right? You can't care. You can't master tonality and you can't master cadence if you're trying to read what to say, right? So preparation, read your scripts over and over and over again. I still have guys that are top producers that are doing $200,000-$300,000 a year just from calls, and they don't have a script. They've memorized this thing, and they still go back day to day or week to week and read it over and recite it to themselves so it's fresh in mind, right? You're not going to memorize it once and never have to look back. You're always going to have to hone it in and craft it in, right?
Well said.
You know, the next one is going to be shifting belief. So, for example, our job here is to do is, one, to identify what's their knowledge in insurance. Do they know how insurance works? If they have any pre-existing issues with insurance, you know, my wife had a policy, you know, it was a waste of money because we ended up like leaving work, right? And we don't have it anymore. So their pre-existing notion of life insurance, it's a scam. They're like, it's not something I can hold. I can't smell it. I can't taste it, right? So for them, a lot of the times prospects are very hands-off. Like they want to keep you away. They don't want to talk about their medical. They don't want to talk about their finances with somebody. And they sure as heck probably don't want life insurance. So what we need to do is shift that belief. So we need to get that pain point is what's been your pre-existing, you know, knowledge of life insurance? How does it work? Then they're going to pour out to you. You're going to get all of that good information that we're going to need to close the sale. So for example, we need to identify what the current belief is, and then provide counter evidence. This is XYZ. Lauren, I actually had my relative recently signed up for this policy. They were thinking the exact same thing. And then when I got them this policy, they got XYZ out of it. And now they live XYZ in insurance that they have this in place, right? Identifying what their current belief is and shifting it. And then it goes into, you know, appeal to the emotions, because emotion is the only way you get sustained change. Emotion is the only emotional change, and an emotional shift is far greater than a logical shift. So when you're talking about emotional and logical shifts, the logical shift is going to be, you know, this is going to get you $15,000 when you die because you can't afford it. That's a logical shift. It's a logical reason as to why you're going to get life insurance. But let's dive into the emotional aspect. Dive into the fact that if they don't get life insurance, what's going to happen to the family member that they're worried about? And dive into that. Now it's emotional shift of belief, because a lot of people don't care what happens when they die. They're not going to be there. But when they figure out that people are around them that they love right now, something's going to change and it can drastically affect that, then it becomes an emotional belief. So we really want to just dive down deep on what that emotion is going to be and hit it on points and bring it up multiple times into the conversation. There's a saying, and it's called, I'm just going to pull up, sustained change only happens when emotional belief is shifted rather than the beliefs at a logical level. And it's the truth. It comes down with marketing, with leadership, with anything. You need to shift them on an emotional level, not a logical level. And a lot of agents get this wrong, and they try to shift their belief on a logical level. Well, you might get them through the sale. You might convince them that this is the best option, and truthfully it is, but they don't understand it on an emotional level, which when their policy hits and their refrigerator broke and their air conditioning broke, and now they have very limited money, guess what's not getting paid that month? Mm-hmm. The insurance policy, because there's no emotional change there. There was no emotional, like they didn't take anything out of that. They only took a logical reason to get it, not an emotional reason. And if there's an emotional reason there, it's going to do you a lot bigger, more justice in the end and in retention wise. And then last, our eighth commandment is lifelong partnerships. So in our scripts that we give to agents, and as well as from past experience from our telesales guys, is the number one thing that we've seen that hit the most, and what you should always repeat in the conversation, is this is going to be a lifetime partnership with the prospect. When something pushes the shove, I want you to know that your beneficiary can call me and we're going to get that death claim done for you. And I also want you to know, if you ever have a health concern or your health gets better, call me. If you ever have an agent call you and say, hey, I can get you a better rate, call me. I'll make sure that one can. And if I can't get you that rate, I'll send you on that way. But I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get you the rate because your insurance rates are going to go up, yada, 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 from the age, right? Now, but it's always reassuring that this is going to be a lifeline prospect. Our first line is, if I can find you a policy that fits your needs, meets your budget, and most importantly, you get approved for, I'll be the agent for the rest of your life. How does that sound? You're pre-closing them in the intro, but you're also just opening it up to say, hey, man, I'm going to be here for life. And then at the end, you're bringing that back up, saying, hey, this is a lifelong partnership. I want you to call me anytime. And what we teach to our agents is do a 90-day review. Hey, I'm going to call you every 90 days, check up on your health, check up on how things are doing, and as well as see if we can get you a better price every 90 days. We might not be able to, but I'm still going to jump in and we're going to talk. We're going to see how life's going. And these are simple reach outs that you can almost automate to an extent, right? Send out a 90-day review text message. Hey, book a time. I'd love to, catch up, see how your health's doing, see how finance is going, see if we can get you more coverage now. Things are always changing. And just constantly being there, right? Building a lifetime partnership with that prospect is going to go a long way, especially in the retention aspect. And as I said in the beginning, I have a full document that documents step-by-step, how to get these things out of the prospect. I'll also attach our script that we use that helps our agents come from in-home and go to A to Z on our live transfers. You might need to tailor them if you're doing outbound, but I'll attach this down below so you can go back and read through all the commandments and get an in-depth look. I'm going to do a high-level overview today on the call. So the next one is consistent follow-up, right? Case studies, sending case studies each week, right? Policy coverages each week. What I mean by that is, hey, I just helped Lauren get a $20,000 worth of coverage, or I just unfortunately had John's wife call me. He passed away. Now his wife gets XYZ because of the protection she put in place. You're not sending that to prospects. You're sending that to your current big book of business, because that instills that emotional belief that we instilled on the call and keeps you top of mind as well. A lot of agents will just sell, and put all those clients in a dusty closet and send them out a card maybe once a year. But I'm all for, why can't you, with today's technology, send out 2 to 3 emails a week on news updates, on case studies, on a potential death claim that happened? Leave out the pertinent information, leave out the people's identities, but put those things in place. And heck, you could probably have AI write a bunch of case studies for you if you really wanted to, right? Like we all heard about ChatGPT. You could probably have ChatGPT come up with some case studies that you could email out every week, right? Like it's not that hard, but people just don't do it. And that really makes weight when it comes to chargebacks. And if you guys, anybody listening is doing any term or final expense or guaranteed issue stuff, those things tend to fall off because it's a lower income. But they tend to fall off because when the refrigerator goes out and the air conditioning breaks on a hot day, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about their air conditioning, right? And if you can make sure that it's a emotional shift, that's going to go way farther than anything else. Now, going into the review meetings, quarterly or even every 90 days, setting up a review meeting with each one of your book of businesses. You can eventually get an assistant to do this. Have a questionnaire that they fill out, a survey. Hey, our company wants to do a survey just to make sure that your policy and your lifestyle is aligned and ensure that we can get you even more coverage than necessary. They just fill out a form. You just have them fill out even a survey. It doesn't need to be a meeting. Then you get all that data, and the ones that are questionable, reach out to them, right? And then health checks. So we encourage all of our prospects, all of our clients to reach out to their prospects as well as their book of business and just do health checks. Like, hey, has your health got any better? Are you improving things? Is there anything, we can add to this policy to help with, maybe, you lost your job. Just reviewing these policies, reviewing your clients, and being really, really honed in with your book of business is going to help you go a long way, especially in telesales. Because people that come in from in-home, they're used to being face-to-face. So automatically there's an emotional level that's been shifted. When you're face-to-face, they have that person's face in their mind. They have you as a person that showed up to their house. You might have coffee at the dinner table. They're thinking about that when the policy's hitting or when they're paying for the policy. Now at telesales, we don't have the luxury of being in front of the person. We have the luxury of building all caring in the beginning of the call, having great tonality, having great cadence, and setting the emotional belief. But what do we do after that to ensure that we can still have that same value that we had in face-to-face? It's the follow-up. You sell that policy. People get buyer's remorse between the time that they purchase to the first touch point. In between that is when buyer remorse happens. So if we can make sure that by the time that they purchase the policy, you're sending out, emails on, oh my gosh, this is the coverage you got. You should be so thankful for your family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Before you get on the phone with them, they have tangibility. Tangibility is key with life insurance. So how do you provide tangibility with life insurance that's non-existent, it's just in the air? You are the tangibility. That's why insurance companies have insurance agents, because they need to put personability there, as well as they need to educate. So it's up to you to educate. It's up to you to care. And it's up to you to make sure that this person knows exactly what they have and instill that each week with case studies, with death claims. Like, people fail to put those death claims out, but because it's a touchy subject, right? It's a little weird, but put those things out, because it's going to reset that expectation for your client that, hey, they made an amazing decision here. Their emotional belief is going to be instilled, right? And people just fail to really just follow up with their book of business. We see it all the time. We just signed up a client. He's been writing $300,000 a year for the past 2 to 3 years. It's consistently. He's never sent it like an email to his clients after they sold. He's never done any of that. And we're having a discussion. He's like, oh, my retention C has just been poor. And I was like, well, what are you doing after the call? And we get down into it. He was only sending just their policy information, and that was it. Like give them something else. It doesn't take too long to craft a couple emails to go out each week. And eventually it can be completely automated. You can send the same email that you sent Judy 6 months ago to Fred today and get him into a sequence that he sees all these emails for the next 6 months, especially that first 6 months of them buying the policy. You want to instill that so that they have 6 months of paying into it. Now they've instilled that, you've instilled that value in them. They're not going to give up after 6 months, right? They've already been in here. You've set that emotional expectation, and now typically you're going to retain 90% of your business from that. I'm going to just, go into little Q&A if anything, but
yeah.
For first and foremost, I'm going to put the document down below for everybody to have a listen to or go through. It kind of outlines, I give you some examples of some emails. I give you some examples of some nurture sequences. Also put our script in there too. You can definitely have a look. This script, it's beastly. We have, I think there's 250 agents that are using this exact same script, and our average conversion rate on those 200 agents is about 32%. So we've gone from an average of 10 to 15%, doubled that with this script that I'm actually giving you guys for free.
Awesome.
So I'll put it in below, but is there any questions, or was there any questions?
Yeah. We got one immediately from the king of Facebook groups himself, Mr. Joe Frazier Campert. How many touch points do you have in your follow-up?
Yeah. So we have 32 touch points.
Wow.
In our follow-up. 32
over a 6 month period?
Yeah, actually the first 90 days we're trying to email them like 2 to 3 times a week. And then just simple text messages, just giving them like, hey, there's a new news update, etc. I'll have that in the document too, so you guys can see the sequence. I can actually give me a second. Can I share my screen in here?
Yeah, there is a present item down there. What I find is usually easiest is if you can share it using the Chrome tabs, if you have that ability. Window works too, but what you generally don't want to do is your entire screen, because it does some pretty funky stuff. I've noticed. Yeah. I've struggled with that one.
So just to give you guys, I want to give you guys like an example. Let's see if I can share screen, Chrome tab, boom.
While you're working on that, there was a couple of things that really stood out to me. One is certainly preparation.
Yeah,
I find that is often a weakness in most agents, particularly telesales agents, but even field agents too, right? Yeah. And if you think, if you consider yourself a professional, you should be practicing and putting in the reps, right? I mean, look, perfect example, and this was brought up at a conference. Nate Offert brought this up. You look at pro athletes. What are they doing all the time? They're practicing. They're putting in the reps. They're practicing layups. They're doing drills, right? Over and over and over, so that when game time comes, when the pressure is on, it's second nature, right? But why do you think agents don't, just out of curiosity, give your opinion, why do you think agents get lazy there?
I think it's just a matter of you've had
say you've had 100 conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they're dialed in. They've closed, 10, 20 policies. They're like, I'm a beast with sales. I am a beast with this. I don't need any help. Like, I've done this. And it's really just ego. I think it's the biggest thing is ego. That's what we find is, yeah. And because they're lazy. A lot of agents, yeah, it's just lazy. It's just, we got a license to print money now. I don't have to work. Right. That was the beauty is I can just, make a couple sales and, take off. We'll also have, especially with telesales, which is something I didn't touch on, is if you are only doing, live dials or dialing out 2 to 3 times a week, and you're not having consistent conversations throughout the week, we'll have top guys, like our top telesales, like our top guys who are closing 80% of their calls. They'll take off for 2 weeks and come back. Their first 2 days are shit. Because it's the repetition. Yeah. It's not like you can't remember a script once and then always have it and have those tonalities, have those cadences all lined. It's repetition and constantly doing it. Absolutely. We got into this. It's still a job. Still active hours is going to help you prepare 10 times more. I like to say it's like you also can't sit outside of the pool and try to learn how to swim without diving in. So you're going to eventually have to just get on the phone, right? And figure out your script on the phone. But try to prepare, try to memorize as much as you possibly can so you're not being a robot on the call. Because that's the worst part is Absolutely. If you're sounding like a robot on the call, then your attention is just going to go to shit. You might close some, but you'll just go to shit. Now, Absolutely. I would like to list off just the 10 commandments real quick. So number 1 is care. Number 2 is tonality. Number 3 is cadence. Number 4 is preparation. Number 5 is gathering that information. Number 6 is hard truths, being able to give them hard truths. So going over, what happens when they die and giving that in a way where it's just, let's talk about the hard facts here, right? Giving them an emotional, playing ground of what the heck is about to happen when you do pass away, and then shifting their beliefs on an emotional level. That's number 7. 8 is lifelong partnerships. 9 is consistent follow-up. And then 10 is redo number 1, which is give a shit. Because we always fail to give a shit. That's the number one thing I see is we get so into this sales paralysis where it's numbers, which is great. Don't stop doing that, but don't let that bleed into the call. Give a shit Absolutely. About each prospect, no matter their income situation or health situation. That's
Definitely.
It.
That can never stop. We did have a question coming in from Dr. Billy Williams. Do you recommend that referrals get treated the same way as a telesale when it comes to the touch points?
20,000%. 100%. Anybody that comes through your line, this is the beauty of dialing in that process and making sure that each person that comes through your window goes through the exact same process. Because one, we will never be able to dial it in enough if we're just, we're tailoring our process for different prospects. No. One process, one streamline, one straight line effect to get this person from A to Z and help them. It doesn't matter if they're your aunt's, best friend. It doesn't matter. They still need to go and get the effective result that you're about to provide them, because you need to shift that emotional belief, no matter if they know you, no matter if they've been told to get this from you. For us, for example, selling live transfers, we might have a carrier recommend us to another carrier. I'm not going to go and pitch them on something else. Right. I'm not going to go and try to alter our approach just for those person. No, this is our process. Follow the process. And when you do make people follow your process, they trust you a lot more. 2, it goes a lot. You can ensure that they're going to understand the policy and what it means to be working with you, and to know that if somebody calls them and tries to pitch them on life insurance or they can get them a better price, they're going to hang up the phone and call you back.
Yeah.
That's the biggest portion of it. You don't want to leave the call without them going through that process. You just don't. And so referrals, doesn't matter. You want them all to go through that same process.
Same follow-up. I love the follow-up because it reinforces the previous commandment, lifelong partnership, yes. Right? It shows that, hey, I'm still here. I'm still here bringing you value, right? I'm still here caring about you. I'm still here building rapport with you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just like you said it, man. The next time they talk to another life insurance, they're like, no, wait a second. I got a guy that cares about me.
Yes.
Right. You're not coming in here and messing up the show.
Yeah. So I asked this question to our private syndicate members, and I said, how many of you can tell me, 3 things about your prospect, the last prospect you spoke to, that had nothing to do with their health or their financial, inventory. Give me 3 things that are just personal that you know about them. And very few could tell us.
Right.
That's why number 1 is give a shit about your prospect. Take the time to just get to know them. And you shouldn't be asking any pertinent questions until 10 to 15 minutes into that call. Nothing pertaining to
that seems like a really lengthy time.
So we are asking them, obviously, on their education of life insurance. It's still a conversation around life insurance. We're just not going into the pertinent application questions. So, have you been diagnosed with any blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into that because people refrain from opening up. Typically, they lie. So you'll get into the application and the application doesn't get approved because they told you something else on the phone because they weren't comfortable telling you the actual shit. Right? So it's just a matter of just getting them comfortable with you. 10 to 15 minutes for a newer agent is plenty of time to get to know them, but also pre-sell them in a way. And our script does a really good way of that. It doesn't get into the pertinent questions until, on a newer agent, 10 to 15 minutes in. Some guys can get to 5-6 minutes and go off. It's just try to set that expectations for anybody that's in an in-home. Take your time. Take your time on the phone. You can go once you get to the application, that's just bang, bang, bang. You're just asking yes or no questions, basically, right? Take your time in the beginning. That's really going to make the end of the call a lot. And we've seen significant conversion from that because, when you're asking people about finances or you're trying to sell them on something that they're not going to be able to touch, they need to be sold on you. That's it, right? And how do you build a relationship when you're going straight into awesome. What were you looking for? Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, let's just get you a quote right now. Going straight into a quote, giving them a number. You've done nothing. You've built no rapport. You built nothing. You've gotten no why.
You're basically an order taker at that point.
Exactly.
Awesome. And this has been fantastic stuff. This is beautiful. So remember, guys, we're going to drop some of these items in the comments below as the show winds up. Yep. I did want to ask you, obviously your live transfers, right? They're all geared towards life insurance sales. Is it all life insurance products or is there a certain niche that you're focused on?
So we do general life. So we're term, final expense, whole life, and some advanced market stuff. They all come through the line. So you might, for life transfers, you might sell a $200 guaranteed issue policy. There's a guy right now that's closing 2 annuities from his call. So we keep it wide range with our advertisements. We also do provide Medicare transfers as well. But same principles. We always like to teach, and this might piss some Medicare guys off, but we always like to teach, sorry, Tony, but we like to teach life insurance sales to the guys because if you can sell a final expense policy, you can sell a term policy, Medicare will be a cakewalk. And you can also take that final expense call and turn it into a Medicare sale. So right now we do a policy linking. We have a policy linking SOP for Medicare. And we had, Pete Fournier, all you guys know, and he just did a cross-sell training. And, being able to take a final expense lead and turn that into a sale, you're going to be far more prepared for Medicare because it's almost like taking an order. There's no cash exchange, right? It's an easy sell on the phone compared to life insurance. So if you can master the life insurance sale, Medicare is a cakewalk. And we do a split of both Medicare and life insurance.
Excellent. So if agents interested, wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to find you?
You can add me on Facebook. We're always active on Facebook, but we'll also put our website into the comments there if you're interested in getting into the coaching program and taking some live transfers. I'll just kind of go over the program real quick, Tony, if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
First and foremost, you get in. We're going to give you our full onboarding. So you're going to get the A to Z of how our calls are generated from those websites you'll see, from the conversation before the call gets to you, and then a full A to Z from our top guys on how they set up presentations, how they go through the commandments on the call, right? And then before you even get our calls. Then we'll gauge. So you'll get your first couple calls. We'll review this with the coaches. If there's anything that we need to suggest or throw out, we'll go over that with you on a one-on-one call before we just send you to the wolves and hope you figure it out. Because a lot of times with lead vendors or different marketing types, agents will go from marketing type to different marketing type and never get the actual messaging that's involved to be able to craft that conversation perfectly. So we give you all the messaging that this prospect is going to hear. You get to hear everything, and then we also help you tailor your messaging to ensure. So with the script that I'll definitely put down below. So before you even get sent to the Wolves, we're going to review, make sure you're set up for success before we just send you out there. And then, every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have a private meeting. We go over cadence practice, tonality practice, which is really funny to hear. We'll bring in guest speakers like, we had Pete Fournier to do a little cross-sell training. And we're trying to help you hone in your telesales craft. Because it is a big jump, and I don't think a lot of people have the access available. So, for example, if you're not cut out, if you're not doing so well, or you need to sit down and recite the script some more, we're not going to make you stand outside of the pool and try to learn. I'm going to actually give you a seat to our database. So what we'll do is we'll give you a seat to the database, and you just have unlimited leads to call. You can go and pound salt, figure it out, and not worry about the dollar bills just going down the drain. So You're able to learn before you get to the easy part, which is just taking inbound calls of people wanting life insurance. So that's just an overview of the program that we provide. If anybody's interested in learning, telesales, or is doing face-to-face in-home stuff and hasn't really transitioned or hasn't had the perfect program, or has tried it in the past and it just really didn't work out, message me on Facebook. We will get you there, I promise.
And this has been fantastic. Thank you again so much for coming on. Guys, thank you all for tuning in. This has been an awesome call. Let me see some like buttons if you like it, some fire emojis, whatever you got. Drop them in the comments there. Great show all around. Thank you again, Chase. Get in touch with them and pay attention, because we're going to drop some of these items in the comments after the show. And other than that, don't forget, tune in next week, because we're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m., trying to bring you guys good, actionable content that you can use to elevate your game. And next week will be no different. We're bringing the 6'9" guy on himself, the Tower of Power, Landon McCarter. So if you want to up your digital marketing game, bring it next week. We'll see you again next week, 9 a.m., Tuesday training. Y'all have a great week.
Appreciate you, Tony.